All right, so James Degale is back with Frank Warren. From the information I've received, and I can't confirm that this is 100% accurate, so take it or leave it, but from the information I've received, Degale has not signed a long-term contract with Frank Warren again. It's on a fight-by-fight basis. Maybe some of you guys will be able to confirm this. Maybe Degale or Frank Warren or whoever might have confirmed it on social media. You let me know in the comment section below. But as far as I'm aware, Degale's back with Warren on a fight-by-fight basis. He'll fight on December 9th at the Copperbox Arena against TBA. Alongside him will be SELBY, defending his IBF featherweight world title on the same bill. And on the undercard, you're going to have Daniel Dubois and Anthony Yarde, who are two of Box Nation, BT Sport, Fish Eyes, rising stars. So, yeah, that's the situation. Now, I am a little surprised that James Degale is back with Frank Warren, even if it isn't under any type of long-term contract. Because from what I can remember, his split with Warren years ago wasn't exactly on great terms, from what I can recall. But one thing I respect about James Degale is that he understands what the boxing business is all about. He doesn't buy into the sweet talk from a lot of these promoters when they want to start talking about, oh, you're a real friend of mine and blah, 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 and talking about loyalty and all these kind of things. James Degale don't buy into all that crap. He knows that the promoters view him and all boxers as commodities. And if they can't make a profit out of you, all of a sudden, they're not your best friend no more. They stop calling. Degale knows this, and that's why he shops around for the best deal and he goes to whoever's willing to pay him the most money. He understands that as a boxer, his career at the top, where he can make big purses, is limited in terms of time. It's a very small window. So he's trying to maximize the money that he can make. Now, Eddie Hearn says there's no hard feelings between him and Degale. They can work together in the future. But he also said that the worst thing James Degale ever did was go to America to fight. Now, Eddie Hearn would say that, but how do we know that that's the worst thing James Degale ever did? Hearn says, well, Degale would have been a big star and all this kind of stuff. Who's to say Eddie Hearn would have been able to get him the fights that he wanted to make him a big star? I mean, look at Kell Brook. Kell Brook went several years as IBF welterweight champion without getting a big fight. And in the end, he was so desperate for a big fight, which Eddie Hearn couldn't deliver for him, that he ended up taking on Gennady Golovkin 2 weight divisions above. And that, according to a lot of people, in the opinions of a lot of people rather, may have ruined Kell Brook's career. Who says that that wouldn't have happened with James Degale if he'd stayed in the UK with Eddie Hearn? Who's to say Hearn could have made him a big star? Degale went to the United States, and obviously on the advice of Al Heyman and under the guidance of Al Heyman, and he fought who? Lucien Boutte. I mean, Boutte was a big star in Canada. He got paid a lot of money for that fight, James Degale. Then he fought Porky Medina. Okay, I can't remember if Medina was mandatory. I don't think he was, but still, it's a stay busy fight, a takeover fight. Plenty of Eddie Hearn world champions have taken takeover fights. And then he fought a unification with Badou Jack, which is a big fight, and that's the kind of fight that James Degale always wanted to be involved in. Badou Jack is promoted by Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather is obviously very close to Al Heyman. It took them a long time to get that deal done for Badou Jack versus James Degale. And that's with a bunch of people who work together regularly. So if it took them a long time to get that deal done, who's to say that James Degale versus Badou Jack would have taken any shorter time if it had been Eddie Hearn involved in it? Do we really believe that Eddie Hearn could have got Badou Jack over to the UK? You know, he struggled to get people to go to the UK to fight Kell Brook. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't have done it, but I'm just putting the other side of the argument out there. So anyway, that's the whole saga with Eddie Hearn and the promoters and whatnot. Again, I respect what James Degale does in terms of shopping around and seeing who gives him the best deal. He might not always make the best decisions. I guess he'll have to look back in retrospect and he'll know. He saw the contracts, So he might not always make the best decisions, but he's got the right idea. Yeah. Forget all this loyalty nonsense. He knows that he's got a finite time to make as much money as possible in boxing. So he's doing what he feels is best for him. Can't hate on the man for that. As far as who is going to fight on this particular show, a lot of people were quick to say that this is a great card. Well, it's got a couple of certainly not A-list Eddie Hearn fighters or former Eddie Hearn fighters in SELBY and Degale. But I think people are so unaccustomed to Frank Warren shows having these kind of names on that as soon as they saw these names on the Frank Warren show, they're instantly saying, oh, this is a great card. How is it a great card? Degale and SELBY are not particularly big names. They're not up there with the Joshuas or even the Eubank Juniors at this point. And furthermore, the most crucial thing is we don't even know who Degale and SELBY are going to be fighting. We know for sure that Daniel Dubois and Anthony Yarde are unlikely to be facing anybody particularly good. They're going to be facing guys who are similar to the guys they've been facing before, knockover jobs. No disrespect to anybody who those guys have fought before, but they're basically not going to be fighting anybody who has a realistic chance of beating them. And I'm not disrespecting Daniel Dubois. He's a young fighter. He's coming up in the game. He's going through a process of, being comfortable as a pro and whatnot. So I'm not dissing Daniel Dubois at all. Anthony Yarde, I do think needs to step up a little bit. But again, I like Yarde. I think he's an excellent talent. But do we expect those guys to be in competitive fights? Not really. So this is quite short notice, it seems, getting Lee Selby and James Degale on this card. Can we expect Frank Warren to fork out serious money to get both these guys in competitive fights, defending their world titles? I think people are jumping the gun when they say this is a good card. It's a card with a couple of names on which are more well known than you find on the average fisheye show. That's all I can say. But as far as being a good card, I don't know about that. We'll see who they match them against. So, yeah, as far as Selby, I don't know any information in terms of whether Selby signed a long-term contract with Frank Warren. You guys will have to tell me about that if you know anything, but I personally don't know anything about that. And James Degale moving forward, let's see who he boxes. Let's see how he does on December 9th. After that, he might go work with Eddie Hearn again. Let's see what he does. He wants to fight, or he says he wants to fight, the winner of the World Boxing Super Series tournament at super middleweight. Let's see who that is. And let's see which promoter can actually make that happen. Let me know what you feel in the comment section below, people, about this particular card. If you've got any more information about who Degale or Selby are going to be fighting, or on Selby's contract, or even on Anthony Yarde or Daniel Dubois, their opponents for this upcoming card. And are any of you going to be attending this show at the Copper Box Arena in London? This is where Frank Warren always has his shows now, in London anyway, at the Copper Box. He don't seem to be able to go anywhere else. And unfortunately for him, many of his shows that I've seen at the Copper Box, Copper Box is a fairly small venue, it's not as big as the O2 or anything like that. And he still struggles to fill out the Copper Box. It's not great for him. And for James Degale, obviously he just wants to get out. He wanted to get out before the end of the year. He wanted to be paid a certain amount of money. Eddie Hearn couldn't provide that. So he's fighting on his Copper Box show. But will he bring enough fans with him to actually fill out the Copper Box? Because I know some of you don't care, but that's something that James Degale always cared about. When he was with Mick Hennessy, he was fighting in leisure centers, and it was really depressing for him to the point where he was thinking of quitting boxing. That's what James Degale said. He said he wants to be on big stages in front of big crowds. I remember when he fought on the Carl Froch. Was it the Carl Froch George Groves undercard that he fought on? When he fought that guy who was trained by... Was the guy trained by Virgil Hunter? I can't remember the guy's name now. He was an American fighter. And he knocked him out. I think it was on the Carl Froch George Groves undercard. I believe it was. And yeah, he loved that moment in front of 80,000 or wherever it was. He was absolutely buzzing, you know? So that's what he lives for. Will the copper box deliver for him in that sense? Does he even care because maybe it's just a one-off? Anyway, let me stop waffling here, people. Drop your comments in the comment section below and let me know how you feel. All right? It's happening. I'm out.